morning, and hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is a webinar series, and the topic of today is the third session. I am the speaker of today, Kang, and Dr. Raffaella Gozzelino is also today's speaker. We also invited her again. So I will introduce myself and Dr. Raffaella first. So this is me. I'm working to improve the author experience in multiple ways and helps authors to achieve their professional goals. I have 6 years of experience in training and consulting in the area of OA journal marketing and management. And this is Dr. Raffaella. She is academic trainer from Editage, and she is also a group leader and assistant professor at NOVE University of Lisbon. And in 2023, she founded Diaspora Moody, a network of qualified professionals, mainly from the African diaspora, who provide services across different scientific domains to aid the development of their countries of origin. And for today's topic, we will talk about the 3 topics: how to respond to reviewer comments, how to understand the rejections, and how to resubmit. So Dr. Raffaella will talk these 3 topics from her perspective, and I will talk about these from my perspective. Okay, let's start. So think about that. If you ever felt personally attacked by a reviewer's comment, and then think if you literally realized that the feedback actually improved your paper. So let's get one thing clear. Maria Curie's Nobel-winning radioactivity research rejected twice. So dismissed for Kathleen Carico's mRNA research dismissed for a decade. What separates their stories from abandoned lab notebooks? A simple mindset shift. So treating rejections as peer-to-peer quality checks rather than verdicts on your worth. And we also talk about 24 hours method. So when you receive a really a comments that make you feel really uncomfortable, put that comments there, leave it there for like 24 hours. And when you have better mood, came back and treat that as a suggestion. So that's what we called in your academic journal, peer review and rejections is available, can provide valuable opportunities. Okay, let's start from how to respond to reviewer comments. So peer review allows your research to be evaluated and commented upon by independent experts, which are your peers. They work within the same academic fields as you. So it aims to, the peer review process aims are to ensure that your article is sound and accurate, to give you detailed and constructive feedback on your work from experts in the field. And the aim of the peer review is also to alert you to have any errors or gaps in literature you may have overlooked. It can also help you create a discussion between the authors, reviewers, and editors around the research field or topic. For some journals, peer review could ensure submitted articles are suitable for the journal and its readers. While for most journals, the editor will be the one screening articles for scope fits. In peer review, main idea is to make sure the article academically sound. And responding to revision. When you are responding to revisions, you can take it as an opportunity to refine and improve the manuscript. Discuss those comments that you don't agree with. You don't have to agree with each comment. If you disagree, you can just put your evidence, put your ideas there. And for the cover letter, summarize main changes in responding to reviewer cover letter. So we suggest you to have 3 paragraphs. First paragraph, thank editors and reviewers. Second paragraph, clarify main changes, which we usually say summarize main changes. And the third paragraph, end politely. Follow the cover letter. You need to provide peer reviewers with detailed response. So cover issues point by point. Refer to line numbers and address comments in sequential order or thematically. Okay, let's invite Dr. Raffaella.
Thank you very much. And I really would like to start by thanking again the Cambridge University Press and the Editage for giving me the opportunity to clarify some of the doubts that you might have along this process of resubmitting and submitting the manuscript per se. So the first thing I would like to emphasize is really that when you receive the response, you really need to be pragmatic and take the time to carefully read and objectively understand the comments that were made by the reviewers. Because indeed, sometimes we might be in a rush to get these replies. So the first reading can be really just for us to know what would happen with our research, if it's published or not. But indeed, then you really need to take time and divide the comment into logical group. This is a suggestion, of course, is a proposal for you to better understand the work that then you might need to do in order to respond correctly to reviewers' comment. If you divide then the comments into descriptive, experimental, conceptual, and time-consuming type of concerns that the reviewer raised, you might also see whether the time frame that you were given to provide those responses is correct or not, in terms that if you then need to do a lot of experimental research to address those comments, you might come back to the editor and ask an extension of the deadline that was given to you. So it's really something that you need to take into consideration. And this is why I'm encouraging you to read and read again and read again the reviewer's comment that you received. If we can move to the next slide. So then you need to decide indeed whether you can address a reviewer's comment and resubmit the manuscript to the same journal. So this, you will get this information from what you receive indeed. You need to understand whether it's feasible or not for you to address to those reviewer comments in a time frame that is acceptable according to your objective of career, finishing PhDs or etc. But indeed, it's very important that you critically assess whether the additional experiments that have been requested are really confirming the conclusion of your study. And then you need to decide whether it's worth to resubmit to your the manuscript to the same journal or send it to a different journal. And again, this you can read it in the editor comment to you, because you need to be sure indeed that if you perform all the experiments and you address all the concern, you have actually the ability to resubmit to the same journal, and especially the journal has the interest and the willingness to publish that manuscript. But everything is included in the letter that you receive. So in the next slide, so this is why also I advise to read and carefully read again the letter, because the language that is used sometimes is not a clear and direct language as we speak, but is, between line, you might understand indeed what you need then to do. For instance, if the comment that you receive says that the study is descriptive, it means that the hypothesis needs to be better clarified. If the study is incremental, it might mean that it builds on previous work, but it does not contribute to, disseminate major concepts in terms of changes in scientific fields or opening even new fields. So the study lacks important control. It means that additional experiments are needed to validate, especially the conclusion that then you draw from those results. Or the data are not convincing. It means that you might need to improve the quality, the significance, and the description of your findings. So every single word might have a clear meaning, and this is the exercise that you might want to do, to really try reading between lines what the editors or the reviewer mean with what they are saying. So in the next slide, I really would like to provide some practical tips, meaning that unless the journal tells you otherwise, use line numbers on your manuscript, because it's easy like this to not simply to refer the changes you made, but also for you to go line by line and see, okay, these I needed to change it. It's easy to spot it. Also, when you go back to that manuscript. And always seek to improve readability, even if it's not mentioned at all that in the letter that English needs to be, improved, the language needs to be improved, or you might clarify better this or that. So always try, anytime you revise your manuscript, to really assess whether all sentences are perfectly linked, if there is a link in between the paragraphs, if the story can be read without, gaps in between. So it's very important that, especially when then you rewrite the manuscript for the submission, and I'm saying rewriting, quote unquote, right, is you addressing the reviewer comment, is important that you maintain the readability of the study and you don't lack basically the clarity and the flow that you were proposing before. And pay attention to every detail, meaning that most of the time it happens to everybody. When you see, when you have a file below your eyes for so long, sometimes you don't spot small details. And this is why it's also important that the colleagues or people of trust or your students, if you are an early career researcher, for instance, or a postdoc, might help you out in spotting those details. So all figures that you inserted to better draw the conclusion needs to be mentioned in the text. The introduction needs to be included in the text. The word content, the word count needs to be maintained as it was written in the guideline of the journal, and every single thing, including the new references that you might add to make a clear and stronger argument. You need to remember indeed that you need to highlight it and insert it again. So pay attention to these details. On top of this, in the next slide, I really would like to encourage you to highlight all changes in the point-by-point reply, because like this, you facilitate what the reading of the comments that each reviewer actually raised. So prepare a letter, you address one review at a time, and then it's it's useful if you write, for instance, the comment that the reviewer made, and then below you address it by putting quote unquote marks for, and you copy and paste the sentence that address that type of comment. You facilitate this way the reviewer not to continuously go back and check in your manuscript every single comment that he or she may have raised. And always use a polite language, even when you disagree with the comment you receive. Remember that the reviewer are experts that are dedicating the time voluntarily, is not a paid time, to improve your manuscript. That is the purpose for which reviewers are sending you the comment. It's not to stop your research, it's really to give you the chance to improve your research. So always a polite language, thanking for their time, for their consideration. It's always good to receive such a positive reply. And I mean, it doesn't harm actually who writes it, right? So start your sentence indeed by thanking the reviewers for their time and their consideration, and then address the comment that are indeed that are made. So, and now I'm giving the word back to Kane.
Thank you, Dr. Raffaella. So I will go to the understanding rejections part. So the process of submitting an article for publication involves several stages. Initially, articles can be rejected before undergoing peer review, particularly if they are deemed to be out of scope. This preliminary rejection is known as desk rejection. If an article successfully passes the desk rejection stage, it will then proceed to peer review. Following peer review, the article may be rejected, required minor or major revisions, or be accepted for publication. If you require language editing in any stage, like a minor revision or revise, resubmit during the first screen decision, you can just simply scan the provided QR code here and access our services for language editing. So for handling rejection, please really take the opportunity to improve your paper. Read the referee's report and editor's letter, and treat revisions as collaborative workshop. Read between the lines, like what Dr. Raffaella says. For example, if you see the paragraphs like the phrase like "we strongly encourage," that means please do this or we will reject your paper. Or if you say like the authors may consider, then you should know that this means you could optional choose their advice. These optional suggestions. You could choose or not. You could revise or not. And diagnose the rejection root cause and establish why your article was rejected. Was it a case of journal scope? Was it due to flaws in your writing? Are there fundamental issues that need to be addressed in your methodology or data? And consider making the changes recommended by referees. An unchanged paper is likely to get the same or similar comments, even from different referees, different journals. If you think the decision is flawed, look at the journal's peer review process, and when to challenge the verdict, review journal's peer review policy. For example, the journal allows formal appeals if you cite conflicting reviewer comments. And consideration for pivoting. Address major flaws in study design or co-findings that are unresolvable. and evaluate if there is a mismatch between the manuscript and the journal's focus or scope. So researching new journals, you could identify journals if that's like closely aligned with your research topic. You can take into account impact factors, target audience, submission guidelines, and adjusting the manuscript. Um, you can customize your manuscript to meet the requirements and audience of the new journal. When deciding whether to resubmit to the same journal or switch to a new one, a decision matrix can be utilized to access options based on three key factors: alignment with scope, revision timeline, and clear return on investment. For disagreeing with comments, if you disagree, you could respond objectively and professionally and supporting your argument with evidence. Um, you can critically reflect on what feedback and suggestions to use for your revision and which ones are not. Justify why you decided not to make certain changes and to follow certain suggestions, and consider revising the argument or speak to the editor for guidance. You can also provide a detailed list of changes made, create an overview of all reviewer comments that received, for example, in a table. This overview will help both editors and reviewers to be aware of conflicting opinions and suggestions that were made, and be specific when pointing out contradictions by numbering all reviewer comments and referring to specific ones in your answers. Now let's invite Dr. Raffaella.
Thank you very much. So with these few slides, we will address the types of rejections that I hope not. You don't receive rejection for your paper, but just for you to be aware which kind of rejection they might actually, editors might send in the letter for you also to know how to tackle. And there are three types mainly. So there is a journal rejection, an editorial rejection that is also known as desk rejection, and then there is a peer reviewing rejection, which indeed is the most common. So if we will see now one by one, and the main reason for papers to be rejected at each step. So if we might go to the next slide. So we will start with the journal rejection. And the main reason for this, considering that at this level, the manuscript is not even in the hand of editors. So it's really in the hand of the journal platform that screens through also AI tools the plagiarism and questionable practice in terms of figure manipulation. So, and here I just wanted to highlight something that students might not know yet. So sometimes with a very good intention to, if you have, for instance, a Western blot result, and therefore you have some bands that might not be well spotted because is the figure is a bit darker. So then with a very good intention, you might apply a brightness filter. But that, if you do that, you need then to apply to all the figures, because indeed these might also be a reason for rejection considered by the journal as image manipulation. So it is better not to do such a thing, but in case you need to apply the same conditions to the figure itself. So, and at this point, if the tool detects something that might be uncertain, then your manuscript might get rejected. As well, if the platform detect that are important informations that are missing. For instance, imagine that you are proposing a preclinical study and you are working with animal models, but you don't have the approval. And for approval, it means that you insert in the method section of your paper the reference of the approval and the authorities that granted that approval. The same if you're using, for instance, human sample, or you are, addressing some results of clinical trials, etc. So you really need to insert that approval. If that is not inserted, your manuscript indeed might be rejected. So the author's approval as well is something that might stop the manuscript to move forward at this level, because you need to sign, if you are sending out the manuscript, that all authors have read and approved your manuscript. So you are speaking on their behalf. And there are some journals that indeed not simply agree with you speaking on the behalf of all authors, but an email is sent to all authors, and those authors need to approve it. This is just to give the chance to every author to really be encouraged in reading the manuscript. And there might be someone that, because is in a rush, does not have time, right? So it's really something that you need to ensure that is done. And also, undeclared conflict of interest might be spotted at this level, and therefore the manuscript being rejected. So another type of rejection on the next slide is the editorial, or also called the desk rejection. It means that when receiving your manuscript, the editor takes the decision. It's extremely important that you write very, very well the abstract. So because most of the papers indeed are, if the abstract is good and if the abstract is capturing the editor's attention, then the editors keep reading. But if the abstract is not well prepared, sometimes the editor, receives so many articles per day that needs to make a decision based on a few information. So pay attention to the abstract. So the editorial rejection, the reason might be because the paper is out of scope. So you need to align the scope of your manuscript with the scope of the journal. The lack of novelty and originality, because remember, discovery is just one, so the rest is really adding, knowledge, and you might say that, but indeed is something that you need to ensure that your fundings are the first to be published, right? Because journals are not publishing the same findings. So the absence of quality data in terms of not simply figure presentation, but especially what those figures means. The poor readability in case that English needs to be revised, etc., or the paragraphs are not well linked, or the session are, having gaps in between, or the no adherence to journal instruction. And in this case, you need sometimes to not adhere to many journal instruction for your paper to be rejected at this point. Sometimes it's not simply word count, but especially if there is a word count, figure resolution, the references that are not well formatted, then the editor said, okay, they even did not read the journal instruction for authors that are in our website, so let's reject the paper. In the next slide, so this is the type of rejection that is more common, which is now at this point, the editor is on board, so he or she might say, okay, let's move with this manuscript and send it to peer reviewers. which are doing actually a careful analysis and evaluation of your study. So they might spot a lack of novelty that the editor might not have spotted, or the editor might want another opinion before taking the decision. So this is indeed something that the reviewers might spot. The insufficient literature review on which your hypotheses are being based. So you need also to not simply cite seminal papers, but also show that you are updated with the literature. So even recent paper. So inadequate study design can also be a cause of rejection, or inappropriate methodology for the results obtained. Remember, so science is advancing every day, so new methodology and new protocols are always in place, and you need to be updated also to that. And do not be discouraged if you don't have that instrument or equipment in your institute. Just collaborate with people that might provide those kind of data, and that will also enrich your study. As well, unreproducible data might be a concern for the reviewers, and therefore they might reject the manuscript at this point, or the poor readability, especially when there is no language proficiency. But in this case, there are many services that can help you, by the journal itself, by even the editage. So there are many services that are helping you in improving, indeed, the readability of your manuscript, if English is not your native language, or if English is still a barrier to describe your study in the best possible way. So, and I will continue now with another session that is just to giving you some tips about resubmission strategies, right? And in the next slide, so I really want here to be a bit provocative. Let's call it like this. So remember that peer reviewers are indeed experts in their field, because this is the reason for which editors rely their decision on those top quality scientists. But are they always right? Meaning that do they get the meaning of the study the way that you would have liked to express it? And this is something that indeed might be in between this decision, right? So sometimes the reviewers are not understanding indeed your study, and therefore their comment might not seem right to you, right? But that is just a matter of then clarifying it. But as well, are their comment appropriate? And if not, or you think that that is not the case, can you scientifically argue and make a stronger case by adding more evidence? And the response, of course, is obvious, because it's yes, right? So everybody is a human being. So everybody might sometimes at some point make a comment that might not sound appropriate to you, but indeed, so you need to think that if the comment is not appropriate, you have the chance indeed to make a stronger case. And also take into account that you and not the reviewer need to be the best expert in, defending your study. And this is as well something that sometimes authors forget. So in the next slide, I just would like you to remember that it's good to always be open to revise your manuscript and to learn how to improve it, regardless of being rejected or not. Because as I said, reviewers are here there to help. And this means that your openness in also tackling that kind of comments, it might indeed improve your manuscript, especially if you need then to resubmit it even to another journal. And cite more reference to support your statement if you are not providing then experiments to address the reviewer concern, because the literature indeed helps also in saving time experimentally, especially if there is someone else that we might refer with a similar work. It is common to have minor differences of opinion. Remember, we are all human with different opinions, and it's fine. But always try to argue and making a stronger case, pushing the editor and the reviewer towards your understanding of specific subjects, and always maintain the scope. And then resubmit on time the revised version of your manuscript. And this is extremely important because the editor he will be really, or she will be really pleased with you, and with you respecting deadlines. If you feel that because of the concerns that were raised, you need more time, just send an email at the very beginning of this process, and everybody can understand that, and you argue why. If you needed to, do experiments with a transgenic mice, knockouts or knock-in, whatever. So then you need more time to prepare the colony, and that might not fit with the time that was granted. But if you say that at the very beginning, so then everybody is more aligned and prone to grant you an extension, rather than arriving at the very end and then say, I would need more time. So please take that into consideration, because indeed where your work stops, then the work of someone else begins. So, and keeping in mind that, I'm sure that it might help you. So, and now I'm passing again the word to Kane, and for the webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Raffaella. So this is like the end of our presentation. 3 goals for today: how to respond to reviewer comments, understand rejections, and Dr. Raffaella also provide those tips for resubmission. So you can get a discount code here. This is the code for the language editing on our website. And as what we say, this is third session of the whole webinar, and we will have the next one next month. If you're interested in the content of how to promote your work after publication, research impact, and visibility, please scan the QR code and register here. We will see you next month. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put your question to the Q&A box. We will answer your question later. And if you have time, please help us and scan the QR code to complete the feedback survey. We will improve based on your suggestions and comments. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us today. If I may, I will start to reply to some questions that were addressed to me. So the first question is, if we resubmit to the same journal after a rejection, what key changes should we highlight in our cover letter to improve our chances? So the cover letter is important, but more important than the cover letter is the point-by-point reply. So my suggestion is to address, all reviewer comment, regardless whether you agree or not. Of course, if experimentally also you have the potential to do so, most of the time you already have the data. So it's easy to sometimes add or refer to some experiments that you did. And once you do a perfect point-by-point reply, then you write the cover letter highlighting to the editor that all the comments that were raised by the reviewers have been addressed, and you might refer only to some key comments or the most consistent ones for the editor to see that indeed your efforts went beyond the explanations or clarifications that you might provide to your study. So in the cover letter, highlight that you maintained the novelty, the originality, you improved a lot your study, thanking the reviewers' comment and highlighting how those improvements actually highlighting those improvements in terms of what you did for your manuscript. So and that of course that will put then the editor in a good willingness to accept your manuscript.
So a question for me, how can CUP's journal recommendation tool or other support services help researchers select the most suitable journal for their work? We don't have journal recommendation automatically tools, but we have journal recommendation services on our language editing services page. The author services page, we have services about like journal selection. The experts will help you to reduce your time to select the most suitable journal for you.
So there is a question asking whether it is still applicable to submit the paper after finishing actually the degree. So is the research still suitable to be published? So the research is always suitable to be published if it's novel, if it's original. So I really encourage you to inquire your supervisor, even if you finished your academic training, to see whether there is the chance for this article, for your manuscript to be published, and potentially offer also your help in getting this done. Because most of the time when students are finishing their research, so there is a gap in between publishing a paper because the student is not there anymore, and sometimes the research needs to be continued with someone else, but that someone else needs to learn how to do those experiments, how to perform the research. So that it might be common, but indeed it can be solved just communicating your intention to see your work published and offering your help in case then that the supervisor might need.
And a question for me, does CUP provide automated formatting checks or templates to ensure manuscripts meet a journal submission guideline before peer review? We don't have that service. I'm sorry. I know some publishers have that automatic formatting checks, but we don't have that yet.
Another question that I receive is when reviewers provide contradictory feedback, how should we decide which suggestion to prioritize in our revision? So if you pay attention to all the comments that you received there is always someone that goes more deeper into science and into experimental science and really testing your knowledge on the topic. Usually, that is the top leading expert to which the editor send your manuscript, and you need to prioritize that because it might indeed shift the balance towards acceptance or a rejection. So this is something that you need to pay attention to, but my advice is always the same. Try to reply to all comments that are raised, even in an experimental manner. Sometimes if there are comments that, are more elaborated to do, you can add some experiments that you previously done in the past to, if those support your statement and the current literature. So just to show, you need to really show and reinforce that you know what you are doing. And if there are contradictions in between the reviewers, so do not look at the contradiction. Try to really argue with the reviewer in terms of in separate responses. So you don't need to know if the reviewer 1 or reviewer 2 agree between each other. What you need to ensure is that each reviewer agrees with what you are saying.
And another question, is there a decision matrix already made by Kane as Ken suggested? Well, no, I would just like put those like scope, fit, and my future career plan, and how long does I need put here, and then list those list the journals and put the time there, different journals on this side, and the options on this side, and then you will just say what's going on the table. You will know, okay, I will submit or I will choose another journal. Yeah, and another question. Thanks a lot for the useful information. How do we get a certificate of attendance? So you will receive your certificate after the webinar, I think within a week. Through emails, we will have emails after the webinar, so you will receive your certificate after that.
So there is a question that allows me to go a bit deeper into the response I gave before, which is indeed if you have, for instance, two reviewers and the method, they are not agreeing on the methodology. One says that is appropriate and the other says that is not, and you need to revise. This does not mean that you need to redo all the experimental research based on a different approach. It means really that you need to be able to convince the reviewer that the methodology you used indeed was appropriate. And how you do that? Inserting another, results obtained with a different methodology, but showing that those results are indeed correct and are the same, regardless of the experimental design in terms of methods that you're using. And this is what then convince the reviewer in letting go that aspect. There is another question about why do some journals require 5 or 6 rounds of review, yet still reject a paper if the final revision are not satisfactory? Does this waste both reviewers and authors' time? So if there are multiple rounds of reviews, of reviewing of your manuscript, this means that there is no agreement. So meaning that there is always, as I said, a reviewer that has more weight in terms of decision for the editor himself or herself. So, and this means that until you do not address everything, so then your manuscript is still pending for being accepted. And this is why it's really important that the point-by-point reply is very well written and done, meaning that there is no word limit on the point-by-point reply. You might address, of course, you don't want to write a book, but indeed what you might want to add are some data that you did not have space or were not considered necessary, and then ask the reviewers whether you might whether is in their opinion you might add those in the supplementary material. So this is something that you might do. But if you start addressing the comment in a way that you're addressing by words descriptively when you really need to do it experimentally, then your paper continues to come back, because if that is considered important, then you will have multiple rounds of reviewing until you get that addressed. There is another question saying, I got a major revision from a journal and the reviewers asked me to redo experiment. However, it is so time consuming and my data was already collected. I provided rationale, etc. So this is the reason for which your paper come back. So remember, so those are discoveries that then other researchers might want to base their hypothesis on. And this is extremely important to understand. It's not simply to get your research done, you publish, and that's it. No, it's really to opening a field, to increasing knowledge on that field, to really disseminate studies that are super important then for others to continue your work. So if you try to see doing more experiments from this angle, maybe you will be more inclined to collect new samples and to moving on with the research per se. Another question is, what should authors do if their paper is rejected after peer review? So then is to select a new journal, because in the letter you might see whether the editor advise you to resubmit your manuscript to another journal. And if it does so, so he or she does so. So this means that you might have probability of referral. Meaning that the editor might refer your paper to that journal and you might have an increased chance to submit it to that journal. It happens with main publishers main journals that have indeed different types of specialties under the same umbrella. But if that is not the case, then you do not discourage yourself. You continue your research. You reformat the paper, you select the journal, reformat, and resubmit. So if your research is novel, original, and adding new knowledge to the field, it will be published. So do not worry about that. So there is another question. When is the best time to submit for publishing? Can we submit manuscript for publication based on thesis theoretical frame, read and data? That depends on the journal that you select. Everything is publishable if novel. Everything is publishable if interesting. So if you keep that into mind, so there is no data or no theoretical framework or no opinion or hypothesis that cannot be published. You really just need to align with the scope of the journal.
And a question for me. How can CUP's language editing or manuscript preparation services improve a paper's chance of avoiding desk rejection or harsh peer reviews? So the language editing or manuscript preparation services, we will ask for experts from all around the world, English native speakers, and they are like professors or lecturers, really experienced researchers. So they will help you to um, reorganize your language and check your manuscript. So in that case, as long as you have better quality of manuscript, um, the desk rejection or the harsh peer reviews can be avoided. Yes, thank you.
So there is a question by saying that the research field of anthropology and sociology are very broad. How can we be precise within the scope specified by the journal? Again, so everything can be broad, but everything can be narrowed down and focused on specific messages that you would really prioritize to disseminate. If you think at the cancer research, how can be broader than that, right? But there is a way that you can narrow it down until getting in your field of specialty. The same for anthropology or sociology is every discipline can be as broad as you think of, but then you narrow it down. Look at it's very important that you read at the journal website and you align what is your research with the scope of the journal, meaning that you might want to narrow it down that way to really fit let's say, better fit the journal guidelines using actually that specific angle. And also by looking at the types of papers that are being published by those journals. So it might also be helpful to you to decide whether those are the journals that are indeed interested in publish your research and how you can canalize specific topics into what is their topic of interest. And there are many websites to look for, replying to another question, to look for journals and narrow down the research for specific disciplines. So that is you can really space in by doing this search. What is very useful to do is also to rely on how much literature you read, because if you read the literature from specific journals rather than others, so those maybe are the journals that you might want to publish your paper on. If I might still reply to another question. So are authors allowed to self-cite? Will it negatively affect the impact factor of a journal? So there is, the answer is no. So meaning that it does not affect the impact factor of the journal. But what it's always a balance, right? So if you have a lot of papers, so if you cite just your papers, so then it doesn't make sense. So cite, but with a criteria in mind of cite your paper in a proper way. You might cite the study that you previously did to set the hypothesis for this new manuscript, and you might cite in a correct way. Do not cite over and over and over, because then it will not be well received by the authors, by the reviewers. And regarding the chat GPT, use it as a tool. because indeed is a tool that allows you to improve your paper, but do not substitute your brain. So, or your creativity or your capability of innovate. So good, but indeed is a tool. I think that on my side, oh, just a question that popped up now. Can I submit to more than one manuscript to two or more journal publisher? The answer is no, absolutely not. So you need to submit one manuscript. You need to wait for that decision, because what you declare while submitting is that you submit only to that manuscript, so to that journal. So then just after the decision, you can submit it to another journal. But journals likes exclusivity, okay? So indeed, you cannot do that. The same fundings and the same manuscript, no. That actually is one of the first things that is checked, and also might be a cause of rejection if spotted. From my side, I think I replied to all the questions. And I'm really encouraging you to read, to improve, and I'm wishing you very good luck in the submission of your manuscript, and thanking you for your attention today.
And see you next month. Bye.
Bye.